here in Boulder on Wyoming game week. Nice to get back to the Centennial State, get that crisp, clean Colorado air after being in muggy Houston for a couple of days.
Yeah, it's not humid here, and I love it. So, always nice to go on the road and experience new places. But I'm glad to be in Boulder, and they're in Folsom Field the next 2 weeks, and night games, which they don't love, but I think it's a fun atmosphere at night. But this week 8:15 start, 2 weeks in a row. So it's going to be an interesting one this week. The Buffs need a win.
I'll say, though, that Trill Burger down in Houston, I might be willing to deal with a little humidity for that. You finally got a chance to try that.
Yeah, I went there on Saturday, and, you and the DNVR guys were talking it up, and I went there like, okay, that's pretty darn good. That was a really good burger, and, What It Do Barbecue, I went down there, had some great barbecue, so shout out to those guys. But, yeah, it was some good food, but the football obviously was not what the Buffs expected it to be.
Yeah, and Coach Prime talked about how this team has bounced back and shared that usually when you practice the day after the game, the guys that played a lot of snaps don't practice, and they just do a little work on the side. Well, he said the defense all showed up in pads, ready to go, because they felt like they let the team down and didn't have a performance that they needed to out in Houston. And so that's a good sign. It is not just this pack mentality that we saw out of them a year ago. Coach, I asked Coach Prime if it's guys freelancing. He said it's not the case, but it seems like too many individuals out there playing defense.
Yeah, he also mentioned, by the way, a lot of the offense did the same thing, but defense really had that mindset of like, look, we didn't play well. We need to practice, and they didn't. They didn't have a great game. I don't know if it's freelancing either. There's a lot of missed tackles. I think there's a lot of times, honestly, that I see guys that are in the right spot and they just don't make a play. And Coach Prime mentioned after the game, like, look, you have a sack, make the sack. You have a tackle, make the tackle. And there were, I can think of like 3 or 4 times that they had Connor Wegman dead to rights and just didn't complete the sack. And, Keaton Wade, who I thought otherwise played a pretty solid game, had one of those to where he had Wegman and just whiffed on it. And Jeremiah Brown had one, and Ben Finnis said, I'm not sure he would have had the sack, but he was close. But there were a few of those that were like, you're right there. And I think if this defense cleans up some things, they can be a lot better, but it's a lot to clean up.
The one guy that was playing out of his mind out in Houston, Tawfiq Bayard, was in the press conference today. Yeah. He dealt with an injury midway through camp, and at one point was down on the scout team until he got promoted up and really took advantage of that. He said he shared a cool thing that Cameron Silman-Craig is constantly getting on him and saying, hey, you got to be first in line. You got to show leadership. Yeah. And so it was cool to hear Silman-Craig is still keeping a close eye on this program, because there were moments in that game he sure looked like Cameron Silman-Craig flying around out there.
Yeah, that was the Tawfiq Bayard I expected to see when they signed him and brought him in here. And it took a few games, and I'm not sure what's going on with the safety position. I don't know if Carter Stoutmeyer got hurt the other night or not, but Tawfiq Bayard, somebody needs to step up and be a leader. And if that's the guy, that's fine. But if he plays like that, that's a start for this defense, I think. Get one of those spots starting to solidify, then get more. But I think if Tawfiq Bayard plays like that, this defense is going to be better.
He was asked about Alex McPherson and London Merritt, the two pass rushers from IMG Academy that are true freshmen. They have the same number of quarterback pressures through 3 games that Arden Walker and Keaton Wade do. Now, it needs to be thrown out there that those guys, the freshmen, are out there on a lot of pass rush situations. So that kind of lends to that a little bit. But, they're pushing those veterans. And Coach Prime says that they're not graded on a curve, even though they're true freshmen.
Yeah, and McPherson also has that block punt. He's made some plays, and he was a guy that we go all the way back to the Alamo Bowl. And I remember, Ben Finniseth talked, I think it was when they first got to town, and was asked, like, those freshmen have kind of joined practice. And he was like, Alex McPherson, man. So he made an impression, like, literally a week after high school, showing up at CU. So you kind of got the sense back then he was going to be a player. He's showing up right now. And again, if it takes young guys like that to spur on some of these older guys, then so be it.
Yeah. Offensively, they know who the quarterback's going to be this week. Coach Prime did not share the details on that. So we're left to speculate. I got to predict that they go with Caden Salter, but it wouldn't shock me, I guess, if they went with Staub. It seems like the best decision for this program right now is to go back in the senior, the guy that you expected to run this offense going in.
Yeah, that's what I would expect. That's what I would think. He was asked early in the press conference, "What do you want out of your quarterbacks?" And he said, "Leadership and consistency." And so I asked about who's your starting quarterback, and he said, "I know who it's going to be." And I said, "Well, what specifically have you not seen out of Caden Salter, or that you need to see?" And he goes, "Leadership and consistency." And so I'm guessing, so based off that, that's not what they were seeing. They weren't seeing enough out of that as a fifth-year senior from Caden Salter. Maybe that was a wake-up call for Caden Salter to be that guy. I mean, I felt like we were starting to see some of that leadership in the well-off videos, but maybe not enough, and maybe that's a wake-up call for him.
And this is a game that they're going to be a couple touchdown favorites in. But Wyoming's a scrappy football team. It was a 3-0 game against Utah up in Laramie this past weekend, with the Utes finally starting to kind of get that separation on the scoreboard in the second half. It's a scrappy defense. It's a game that you have to show up and play well. Otherwise, it could be a nail biter. I'm not predicting that, but they got to obviously play better than they have the prior 3 weeks.
Yeah, and at the same time, I view this as the same way as the Delaware game, in that you've got to not only win this thing, you've got to win it convincingly for fans to feel good about the rest of the season going forward. If this is a nail biter, I think people are going to be really nervous about Big 12 play the rest of the way. If you go out and really blow them away, then you feel pretty good about yourself. And so, yes, I think they got to show up and play. If they do show up and play, I expect them to win pretty handily.
All right, Colorado needs a win at Folsom Field on Saturday. We're going to be back with more analysis before that Wyoming game.